The contract saga of Formula 1 world champion Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes has finally been resolved, but only partly. Hamilton's new Mercedes deal only covers 2021, which means the gossip hasn't actually ended, it's just started all over again with the content slightly different. But there are some important questions to ask in the wake of Hamilton's much anticipated contract renewal, especially as it's a one-year deal that Mercedes was quite clear it wanted to avoid. As this is only a one-year deal, might the 2021 season be Hamilton's last in Formula 1? He had hinted at leaving last year, saying he was not guaranteed to be on the grid, although that was more in reference to a new 2021 deal not being a sure thing. It's not unreasonable to suggest the arrival of all new rules in 2022 offers the best opportunity for a clean break. It gives Hamilton the chance to depart on top this year, just in case another team trumps Mercedes in mastering the new rules. And Mercedes would be able to pursue a fresh start in a new era with someone else. But in all likelihood, this one-year contract is just an interim solution that gives both sides flexibility, including letting Hamilton commit to at least one more year with Mercedes in the coming months. After all, he has more he wants to achieve on track and off it. Mercedes says a significant part of the new agreement builds upon a commitment to greater diversity and inclusion in motorsport. To that end, the two parties will create a joint charitable foundation, and it stands to reason that the best way to promote that is for Hamilton to keep racing for as long as possible. He's also in a very strong position competitively. His performance level is outstanding, he's statistically the greatest F1 driver in history, and he's still at the top of his game. So Hamilton's going to be in demand for many years yet. Realistically, his F1 future is his to shape and determined by whether he wants to continue. We don't know the exact terms of this deal, but it surely won't be as straightforward as a one-year contract. There's every chance a compromise has been reached given there were disagreements in the negotiations around contract length. After all, Toto Wolff initially said he didn't want a single-year extension because it would mean going through the process all over again this year. But that's the deal that has been done, with Wolff saying it was ultimately to the benefit of both parties to get 2021 sorted now and agree a possible 2022 deal in the coming months.
No, we jointly agreed on a one-year deal. First of all, there is a substantial regulation change in 2022. We also want to see how the world develops and the company. And on the other side, because we kept it very late, we wanted to discuss the contract at the end of the season between the Bahrain races, and then obviously Lewis didn't feel well, and at the end we started our negotiation, our conversation just before Christmas. And it was important to get it done as soon as possible. And in that respect, we thought, let's postpone the discussion about 2022 and onwards to a later stage in 2021.
So that means the terms agreed for 2021 are satisfactory in the short term, but neither party is yet ready to accept them for 2022 as well. For Mercedes, the desire to keep Hamilton is one part of the equation and a significant one given his qualities. But if he is on the F1 grid in 2022, it will almost be as important to ensure he's not driving for someone else. In Wolff's position, you would only accept a straight one-year deal with no safety net if you were backed into a corner with nowhere else to go. However, a deal that extends beyond 1 year but that only guarantees Hamilton will race in 2021 and would prevent him from driving another team for a longer term would be an easier compromise to take. It could be that this kind of deal exists with the framework that gives Hamilton a deadline to decide whether to race on under the existing terms. That's only one possible permutation, but it's reasonable to assume that there is far more complexity to this new contract than meets the eye. The next few months are going to be dynamite for F1's driver market, as presently both the Mercedes seats are available. And if Hamilton took this long to commit and only committed to a one-year contract extension, he's not yet set on staying at Mercedes beyond 2021. That presents a fascinating opportunity for alternative options to stake their claim for a Mercedes drive, and it's fun to ponder whether that includes Max Verstappen. Verstappen had talks with Mercedes way back in 2014 when in European Formula 3, and only picked Red Bull's program because it guaranteed him a move into F1 with Toro Rosso the following year. Yes, Verstappen has a long-term Red Bull deal, but that will have break clauses in it. It would be nonsense for Verstappen to not even consider the possibility of a Mercedes move in the wake of Hamilton's one-year commitment. Likewise, Mercedes must be looking at Verstappen, widely regarded as the best driver barring Hamilton on the current grid, as a potential alternative. In any case, the knock-on impact of a protracted Hamilton negotiation for 2022 will be huge. Theoretically, many drivers are out of sync for this, such as Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso, who are all under contract at different teams beyond 2021. But contracts can be broken, and there are always clauses we don't know about. So anybody who thinks they could benefit will either be double checking their contracts or waiting as long as possible to avoid committing to anything beyond 2021. Valtteri Bottas and George Russell are the two drivers whose fates are directly intertwined with Hamilton's. For Bottas it could go either way, but a little certainty might prove to be his ally. Ever since Russell's starring role in the Sakir Grand Prix, the expectation has been that Russell will take Bottas's place in 2022 alongside Hamilton. But if this situation does arise again for 2022 and Mercedes is trying to convince Hamilton to stay, that helps Bottas. Hamilton benefits from having him as his teammate, which would strengthen Bottas's position. And even given the risk of Hamilton not being around for 2022, the continuity Bottas offers is valuable. If Hamilton retires at the end of 2021 and Mercedes wants to attract Verstappen or another leading driver to the team, keeping Bottas as a proven wingman has obvious appeal. As for Russell, all he can do is wait his turn. He's done everything right so far, and after 3 seasons at Williams, the time would be right to step up in 2022. But any uncertainty over Hamilton's future could delay that decision-making process and will certainly complicate it. This could increase the chances of a 4th year at Williams, trigger an interim step with another team, or maybe it'll all end up with Mercedes deeming the time is right to promote him after all. There's been all manner of theories about the delay in sorting this new deal out. It was initially hoped a gap in the intense 2020 schedule would facilitate negotiations, but they were then put back to after the titles were sealed and then eventually after the season ended entirely. Those who have been adamant there was a substantial sticking point will feel vindicated by the fact it's only a 1-year deal. After all, why would a simple extension for 2021 take this long to sort? It was speculated that Mercedes had rebuffed Hamilton's financial demands with conflicting reports that listed salary, a veto over his teammate, duration of the contract, bonuses and all manner of things as potential reasons for the lack of a resolution. But that's now been emphatically rejected by Wolff, who says the terms were agreed early last month and explicitly denied that Hamilton had requested control over who Mercedes could choose as his teammate.
No, there was never a moment where we thought he wouldn't sign. And there was never a moment where he doubted. The curveballs were meant to the situation about him having corona in the time where we expected to sit down face to face in Bahrain. And on the specific clauses that were out there in the media, I don't know where it came from because none of that is true. I actually read about this, found it interesting perspectives, but the truth is there was not even a second of discussion about any driver-specific clause. He has never asked for that in the last 8 years, and it's a team decision. And the other clause about the revenue split, or a revenue share, was baseless too. So none of that was ever part of our discussions.
There are many different factors involved in Hamilton's contract, and non-salary items such as his off-track role and initiatives around diversity were fundamental elements to address. What's clear is that whatever deal has been struck for 2021 is not guaranteed to work for 2022 as well. That means Mercedes and Hamilton must re-enter talks at some point this year. And that means Hamilton's future potentially being the subject of intense speculation yet again, although Wolff says he wants those talks to begin much earlier this time around. That's understandable as the stakes are even higher. Hamilton leaving F1 seems a lot more likely at the end of 2021 than it would have been last year. So make sure you're subscribed to the race to keep up to date with Hamilton's post-2021 future and all the other major storylines from the coming F1 season.